It's on.
America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I first want to thank Sandy for stepping in and assisting us tonight, so thank you, Sandy. Roll call, please.
Trustee Lautner?
Here.
Trustee Zora?
Here.
Trustee Council?
Here.
Trustee Sheehan?
Here.
Trustee Stewart?
Here.
Trustee Caputo?
Here.
President DeCipio?
Here.
A quorum is present, Mr. President.
Thank you, Sandy. Our first order of business here is the presentation of resources on the topic of homelessness by Beds Plus, Chief Executive Officer Tina Rounds and Chief Program Officer Shannon Gold, LCSW. Welcome, you guys.
Safety net organization that provides homeless service, prevention, and rental assistance for people, as well as a wide range of housing services. We know that we have our headquarters located at Ogden and East Avenue, just down the street here, where we provide 20 units of permanent supportive housing, as well as many different offices, including our admin offices are there. But we are actually spread throughout Southwest Suburban Cook. We have an office in Oak Lawn. We have another medical respite facility in Summit, Illinois. And then we have an 80-bed triage transitional shelter at 85th and Cicero near Berkeley. Jan and I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about the array of services that we provide. Many people know of homelessness just by a person who might be obviously homeless. With the telltale signs, but that's not all of the service that we provide. That's not the only type of person that we assist in the community. That is any type of person who exists. About 2,500 people a year we help, and the majority of those folks that we help, just about half, are people that come through for rental assistance. Last year we gave out about $800,000 we helped facilitate to bring financial resources to our community to stabilize not only the clients but also the rental market in the community. We do that through state, federal, and county-based funds, as well as work in partnership with private donors to help people with rental arrears, with rehousing. So that's the majority of what we do. We also run emergency services. That does include an 18-bed medical respite facility. That is, we just opened up in March based on some COVID funds, county-based COVID funds. We have an integrated health and an integrated mental health program that's there. And we work in cooperation with the hospital systems to have people step down so that we don't disrupt their care. And then, in addition to that, we do street outreach, and that's maybe where you've intersected with us recently. And our workers will, come on site to a person who, may be living outside or in a place not meant for human habitation. We have a team of community health workers that manage a walk-in center at our Summit Service Center. It's 7666 West 63rd Street, 63rd and Archer approximately. And that is between Monday and Saturday from noon until 4. So if there are individuals that are found by police or by fire or paramedics, they can just come right in, no appointment necessary into the offices. We also manage, as part of the emergency services, a 24-hour phone line. It's not managed like a 911 or anything, but it is answered by a live person 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And that will start the process for a person to get assistance. That number is 708-354-0858. And again, it's managed 24 hours a day, and it's our first point of entry in addition to the walk-in centers. And then finally, we have an array of different housing programs that help people for as little as 6 months with rental assistance, with security deposit up to 6 months rent, to a lifetime benefit that is like a housing voucher or an entitlement benefit for the long term. We own 2 buildings in the Grange area, 9 condominiums, including one in Grange Park. And then we have master lease contracts with a number of different landlords where we're the leaseor and then we sublease to a client for long term, and have social workers that meet in the home with people helping with life skills, service connection, and just kind of integrate into the community and improve their stabilization in their life. So that's our array of programming. Again, we're the HUD-funded local agency. We're about just under $10 million budget organization, about 60 staff. And we invite you to have a greater partnership with us. The way to solve this problem is to work in partnership with one another and identify those needs and try to figure out individually how to get those needs met. Shannon is our Chief Program Officer. She runs all the day-to-day programs with our 4 lines of service. If you have any questions, we'd be happy to talk with you about that.
Anybody have any questions? I have one.
It can be a silly question, but it's not. How do people get there?
They're walk-ins, people that know they're homeless, they just have their car, they don't have a place to go, they can come in and drop in and get a room. Is it referrals from communities like ours or from our police and fire? Or do families, all the above?
Schools, from churches. We have people just trying to find out about us online. Libraries call us. There is a suburban call center that is listed on the back here. So it's an 877 number. People just call our number, the 354-0858. We get referrals from other social service and nonprofit agencies. We try to make the service access as low barrier as possible, so all the person has to do is walk in, and then they'll be guaranteed a meeting with one of our community health workers.
And then the approach to outreach is also proactive. So we're not just waiting for those phone calls. The street outreach team actually goes out and ensures that we actually kind of canvass and go around in each community, both in order to interface with stakeholders at municipal offices, libraries, but also just visit the places where people may try to camp or park safely if they're staying in their car. Because if we can identify folks who may be unsheltered, then we will attempt to try to engage.
So when a call comes in, do you go out to the person that's wherever they are?
Citizen. It might be actually someone driving through an intersection that sees someone asking for money, or we may have seen the same person at a bus stop several days in a row that they don't see quite moving on. And so as long as that person lets us know just a general physical description, where they saw them, the last time they saw them, then our chief will go to that location and talk to that person.
And we're fortunate here and down there that we have homes we can go to and they don't. And so I want to thank both of you for the great services that you do. Chicago's got a huge homeless problem, don't they?
And so the agencies work together to have a front access door, have a strategic plan, and we have a joint application into HUD funding. And so the services in Chicago are coordinated separately, but a parallel track as the suburban So, and each partner agency has like a district, and our district is Southwest Suburban Cook. So it's kind of different than a library system or, you know, a police station. You know, there's kind of an area of which these agencies are, you know, responsible, but they're doing the same thing in the different communities led by different agencies.
Thank you for being here tonight. Any other questions?
Yes. Oh,
Yes,
sorry.
Bob? Trustee Lautner?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. Thanks for what you do, first of all. The question I have is, how long are individuals allowed to stay at the facility?
So we have kind of a pipeline system. So depending on what they qualify for, how long they've been homeless, if they can become independent on their own, what their health and mental health conditions or other disabling conditions are, those are, you know, kind of some of the determining, and their level of cooperation and willingness. Those are kind of determining factors for how long or what kind of level of support we can provide them and what they might qualify for. So typically, people who come into, say, our medical respite program, they can stay up to 24 months, but we're seeing about 120 days. So we want to move people through to that next intervention, to their own, and get them to housing that they can sustain. But we have that flexibility to keep them longer. And in our motel-based shelter programming, we have a 90-day mark. But again, we have some flexibility. It's not 190 days. And then we have other move-on programs like a master lease apartment where a family could say live there for a while before the lease would become in their name. So it's kind of like a dynamic system based on the person's need.
And is there a minimum age? You say if you have a family, you know, where they have children.
Age. Usually in a family situation, we're caring for not only the head of household but the family unit itself, and you know, managing and integrating care based on those families' overall needs. But in a situation where it's a single individual, it would be 18. Otherwise, it would be a PCFS.
Very good, thank you. And again, thank you for what you do.
Trustee Zora?
I just had one question. When is the soup fundraiser that you usually do in the winter?
Well, it is going to be February 4th, and it's going to be thank you for asking, the William Tell Holiday Inn. So it will be the Sunday before Super Bowl, and we have, you know, several soup vendors that come and donate their products, a few breweries, live music, and it's a nice family-friendly event.
Any other comments? Trustee Council?
Thank you, President Scipio. Have you encountered any people that are belligerent when they've been approached? And if you have, how do you deal with that? Is there a law enforcement component that's attached to your group?
There's not a law enforcement that's attached to our group, but oftentimes we've been successful, not all the time, where we can work together, and you know, we can offer shelter, and you know, the municipal police can say, well, you can't stay here, or you know, there needs to be, you know, movement after, you know, sunset when the park is closed. So if we can work together, oftentimes we can get the person to cooperate in services because it's a much better option. However, everybody has their own free will, you know, and their own choice of, even if we don't agree with the choice, even if the choice is in the best interest of the person. We've had many people make very illogical decisions about where they're going to live or how they're going to manage their lives and care. And we really don't have that control over them, and we can't make them do that, particularly if they're of sound mind, or at least according to the, you know, the government. So for us, we just want to continue to present opportunities to people and give them chances to take advantage of resources that they're entitled to.
Thank you. I think you guys are doing a great job, and I applaud your efforts. I really do. Thanks.
And you know, it's very challenging. It's illogical, and it's inhumane. You know, but people make choices on their own. We all do. So we have to
Thank you for all that you do for our communities. Have a great holiday. Thank you, Kathy. Before we move on, I'm remiss in introducing Catherine, who is with us from the Youth Commission. Catherine, welcome. Okay, public participation. Seeing none, we'll move on to Administrative Committee. Trustee Council.
Thank you, President DeCipio. Tonight, my agenda item is regarding paid leave policy. The background is effective January 1, 2024. The Paid Leave for All Workers Act, just the act, entitles Illinois workers to receive up to a minimum of 40 hours of paid leave each year, which they can use in their discretion with certain limited exceptions. The village reviewed its current policies to ensure compliance under the act. Municipalities are required to adopt leave policies by ordinance prior to January 1, 2024, or strict adherence to the act applies. The village's employee personnel manual includes provisions for paid vacation and sick leave for all full-time employees. However, there are no provisions for paid leave for part-time employees, including paid on-call firefighters, temporary or seasonal employees. Therefore, an amendment to our current policy is required. We have the language in our packet, and the staff recommendation spent considerable time reviewing the new act as it applies to our current policies. Staff and the village attorney, Keating, have reviewed the new paid leave policy for part-time employees and recommend approval of the amendment as well as the ordinance defining and adopting all applicable paid leave policies. Motion and action requested. This item is for both discussion and action. The two motions are as follows. The first one reads, motion to approve certain amendments to the village's personnel manual.
Motion and a second.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion. Trustee Council.
Did you want me to discuss the first one and the second one together?
We can do them separately.
Okay. I guess what concerns me is that I have a question for Kathy, I think, Attorney Keating. Because this was passed through the state legislature, are we absolutely bound to having this language in our personnel manual?
Well, we have a choice. As the memo states, we can, if we do not adopt this language granting certain benefits to part-time employees, by January 1st of next year, we as a village will become subject to the new legislation. And the new legislation places very onerous burdens on the village, not only to provide benefits and provide paid leave, but record keeping and other things like that. I think maybe Julia or Maggie can speak to the burdens that the legislation will impose on the village. But to answer your question, no, we don't have to pass the amendment to our paid leave policy. But if we don't, we're going to be subject to this act, and it'll be a lot of staff time, a lot of record keeping, and a lot of reporting.
Thank you. I appreciate your clarification. So that being said, I certainly don't want to be put any more burden on staff that they already do a lot of work. And considering that the state has decided that this is the route that we need to take, yet another unfunded mandate from what I've researched, I certainly would not want the village of Grange Park to suffer any consequences by not adopting this. So reluctantly, I have to say yes. That's my point.
Thank you, Trustee Council.
And then the second motion reads, oh, I'm sorry,
Motion's on the table.
I jumped it.
Before I move on, Julia, would you care to interject any comments?
So getting back to the question about what would happen if we don't pass our own ordinance, the state law says that you must provide, one thing it says for certain is that all non-home rule communities must provide paid leave for all employees. That's the rule. There's some question for home rule communities. We are not a home rule community, so it's not a question for us at all. So I'll start there. Secondly, with regard to how the Paid Leave for All Act is written, it provides a requirement for paid leave for all employees, and the way that the requirements are written within the Act and the organization of those requirements, it doesn't necessarily jibe well or have continuity with the way that we provide leave for all full-time employees. The Act allows us to approve a policy as long as we provide vacation and sick leave for employees and provide part-time for provide for paid leave time for part-time. We can approve our existing policy by an ordinance before January 1, and we will therefore be in compliance with the law. So we were navigating all of this in order to come up with the best possible language in compliance with the Act under the law as we understand it from all the experts out there. Hopefully that answers your question.
Thank you, Julia. Any other trustees have any comments? Trustee Lautner?
Thank you, Mr. President. The only clarification that I had on this is from what I understood, if I was correct, is that there are exceptions for nursing care facilities. And is what I thought, and I guess confirmation that was true. And then if that is the case, and I think there was some discussion about including municipalities and other not-for-profits in that same category. And if that's the case, then will there continue to be an effort to try to lobby to have that excluded?
I think that's a great question, great comments, because you reminded me that I missed something of what I said earlier, which is with regard to municipalities. Yeah. There are exemptions in the Act for certain types of organizations. I couldn't tell you about that particular provision in terms of skilled nursing care facilities, but I can tell you that there is a clear exemption for public school districts, and there's a clear exception for public park districts. And so each of those entities are exempt from this requirement in the law. Because of that exemption was there, and it was not there for municipal employers, which, as you can imagine, was a little bit, it was a big issue for municipalities, particularly the Illinois Municipal League, because a lot of municipalities provide for recreational services and park programs. Right. They don't have a park district. And so that exemption doesn't apply for those municipalities that have golf employees, public pool employees, lifeguards. There's not an equal or a level playing field between the entities, so there is some inequity in application as the law was written, how it was developed. To answer your question, the Illinois Municipal League and the councils of government they continue to have conversations on not having that exemption, and they will continue to push legislators to consider amendments to the Act for that exemption. So the answer to your question is yes, they will continue to pursue it. The IML recently included this particular topic as one of their legislative agenda items for the 2024 legislative session.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. President.
Any other comments? Catherine, Youth Commission? Great, thank you, Catherine. Sandy, call the roll.
Trustee Lautner?
Yes.
Trustee Zora?
Yes.
Trustee Council?
Yes.
Trustee Sheehan? Yes. Trustee Stewart?
Yes.
Trustee Caputo?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously, Mr.
Thank you, Sandy. Continue on, trustee council.
Thank you, President DeCipio. Motion 2 reads as follows. A motion to approve an ordinance regarding the Illinois Paid Leave for All Workers Act for the Village of LaGrange Park. And thank you, Julia, for all of your explanations, and also Attorney Keating. I think that this is just yet another example of what municipalities. Oh, I'm sorry, the second. Sorry,
Okay, we need a second, right?
yeah,
Okay, second. Continue.
sorry. Thanks for the explanations, Julia and Attorney Keating. So I guess that being said, we have many duties as a municipality, and I certainly don't want to see LaGrange Park be penalized for not following this act. So yeah, I have to support it. Thank you.
Any other comments? Catherine? No? Okay. Sandy, call the roll.
Trustee Lautner,
Yes.
trustee Zora,
Yes.
trustee Hansel,
Yes.
trustee Sheehan. Yes. Trustee Stewart,
Yes.
trustee Caputo.
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously, Mr. President.
Thank you, Sandy. Thank you, trustee council.
Thank you, President DeCipio.
Moving on, Public Safety Committee, trustee Caputo.
Yes, thank you, President DeCipio. My general background is for the OSFM certification and reimbursement for training expenses. The general background is the Village of LaGrange Park Fire Department, as a matter of policy, requires all firefighters to be trained to the basic operations firefighting level and become certified as such through the Office of the Illinois State Fire Marshal prior to completion of their probationary period. Attaining other additional OSFM state certifications is also required, especially for fire officers and those functioning in specialized roles. Although we pursue various grants or other options for free or low-cost training opportunities, there is a significant cost involved in training personnel, even at the basic operations level. The village and department does not have an ordinance on file with the Office of the Illinois State Fire Marshal stating our basic training requirements for new firefighters. If we did, it could allow for partial reimbursement of training expenses for some of our firefighters' training. This program has been in place and has evolved for several years, but as a village ordinance was most likely never pursued due to the very limited amount of funding available at times, and potentially not wanting to lock in entry-level training requirements by ordinance. Also in the past, we did not submit for the reimbursement because the payroll and administrative costs spent on applying exceeds the potential reimbursement received. And based upon today's cost of training and the many improvements made over the years in tracking training hours and payroll, the department feels that it should at least have an ordinance on file so that we are better positioned to pursue reimbursement should cost-effective funding be available. Also, we have already been meeting the most critical requirements of the program for many years, requiring all firefighters to be state certified at the basic operations firefighting level during their probationary period, having a probationary period of no longer than 2 years, and submitting National Fire Incident Reporting System, NFIRS, reports annually. Additionally, information is attached. In summary, the village needs to pass an ordinance agreeing to train according to the Illinois Administrative Code, Title 41, Chapter 1, Part 141, Section 141.400. The recommendation is for the staff recommends electing to participate in the Office of the State Fire Marshal's Division of Personal Standards and Education Certification Programs and to reimburse for training expenses. We already participate in the certification programs, but we recommend passing an ordinance which would allow us to apply for training expenses. The action request is for us to discuss and have an action for the OSM certification and reimbursement for training expenses. And so I'm looking to make a motion for an approval on an ordinance amending Chapter 34 of the LaGrange Park Municipal Code as amended.
Second.
Motion is second. Discussion. Trustee Caputo.
Well, as we know, we have been having some difficulties lately, fulfilling our firefighter, roles and staff and getting people to come. And as we know, these trainings are necessary at a state level, municipal level, and so forth. And if we can do anything to get either the village and or the firefighters reimbursed, it might help us try to fill our staff and get this taken care of, so that we have the proper procedures and we're in compliance with the state regulations with the fire marshal. So I'm in approval of
Thank you,
making this
Trustee
happen.
Caputo. Any other comments? Sandy, call the roll.
Trustee Lautner?
Yes.
Trustee Zora?
Yes.
Trustee Council?
Yes.
Trustee Sheehan?
Yes.
Trustee Stewart?
Yes.
Trustee Caputo?
Yes,
The motion passes unanimously, Mr. President.
Thank you, Sandy.
that's all I have on my
Well
agenda.
done, Trustee Caputo.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on, Public Works Committee, Trustee Sheehan.
Thank you, Mr. President. Metropolitan Water Reclamation District of Greater Chicago, IGA, for green alleys. Staff is seeking the approval of an intergovernmental agreement with the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District of Greater Chicago for a green alley project. General background: in 2017, the MWRD-GC established the Green Infrastructure Partnership Opportunity Program to help fund green infrastructure projects in their service area. In September 2022, Hancock Engineering submitted a grant application to reconstruct 2 alleys in green infrastructure to enhance stormwater mitigation in the area. The alleys identified for this project are between Newberry and Kemen and Blanchard north of 31st Street. While the MWRD-GG initially rejected GC initially rejected this project for construction in 2023, we received an award letter in June of 2023 stating that our project was chosen for construction in 2024. The total project cost is approximately $650,734. With the MWRD is funding this project at 43% or not to exceed $280,401 of the total cost. The project consists of excavating the alley to install a storm sewer, providing a stone base, and installing concrete ribbons and permeable pavers in the center to collect the stormwater. We anticipate construction in the spring or summer of 2024. Attorney Keating reviewed the IGA and approved it as presented. Staff recommends approving the IGA between the MWRD and the Village of LaGrange Park for the construction of green alleys. Therefore, I make a motion to approve resolution authorizing execution of an intergovernmental agreement by and between the Village of LaGrange Park and the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District of Greater Chicago for the design, construction, operation, and maintenance of the Green Alley project in LaGrange Park, Illinois.
Motion to second.
Second.
Motion and second. Discussion, Trustee Sheehan.
Thank you, Mr. President. We've had multiple discussions on this. I think pretty much everybody's for it. Look forward to getting that started next year, and I'm sure Hancock will represent us well, and I think we have a pretty good partnership with the MWRD.
Any other comments? Trustee Lautner.
Thank you, Mr. President. My only clarification is, when will the majority of the expense hit? Will this budget year or next budget year? I didn't see that unless I missed it.
This is all going to be budgeted within our upcoming cycle that we're going to be doing, so it'll be available, in May. That's when we're hoping to get construction going, so nothing will be out before then.
Catherine, anything? Okay. No other comments? Sandy, Trustee Caputo, I'm sorry.
Yes, thank you. So besides the MWRD funding the project at the 43%, do we have the budget for the remainder of the balance for it, or are we gonna have a shortfall or not on where we stand with the balance of what we would be getting with the funding that we're getting?
I mean, we're going to have the funding for it in our next year's budget, like we just talked about, but we'll be talking about that during that process. But we will have those funds available in beginning next year's fiscal year.
Okay, great, thank you. That's all I have. Thank you.
Sandy, call the roll.
Trustee Lautner,
Yes.
Trustee Zora,
Yes.
Trustee Council,
Yes.
Trustee Sheehan,
Yes.
Trustee Stewart,
Yes.
Trustee Caputo.
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously, Mr. President.
Thank you, Sandy.
Next, we have various engineering agreements with Edwin Hancock Engineering. Purpose is to approve 3 engineering agreements tonight with Edwin Hancock for various upcoming projects. General background in preparation for several upcoming public works projects, staff presents 3 engineering agreements with Hancock Engineering. Each fiscal year, staff budgets appropriate dollars for engineering services related to our sewer system. Hancock provides design and construction engineering, prepares bid specification, and holds a bid opening for these projects. You see the 3 projects listed below: sewer lining project, again, sewer cleaning and closed circuit televised amount. You see the budget locations. Staff recommends the village board approve the agreements with Edwin Hancock Engineering at tonight's meeting. For I make a motion to approve and authorize the village manager to execute agreements between the Village of LaGrange Park and Edwin Hancock Engineering for design and construction engineering services in an amount of $83,000 for various sewer-related projects.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion. Trustee Sheehan.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think we do a pretty good job of trying to stay on top every year of our aging infrastructure, and again, Hancock is represented well. So look forward to next year's projects.
Thank you, Trustee Sheehan. Any other comments from any board members? Sandy, call the roll.
Trustee Lautner,
Yes.
Trustee Zora,
Yes.
Trustee Council,
Yes.
Trustee Sheehan,
Yes.
Trustee Stewart,
Yes.
Trustee Caputo.
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously, Mr. President.
Thank you. Catherine, I apologize. What did the Youth Commission think? Go so you do right then. Thank you. Let's see, Trustee Sheehan, thank you. Moving on to other reports. Village Manager, Julia.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have a couple of items to report on this evening. First, regarding the Paid Leave for All Act, that work that was done, I just wanted to thank staff for their assistance on that. This was something that we watched and learned on for the better part of 2023. And so thank you to all staff, and in particular, special thanks to Maggie and Larry for their work. They attended countless online training sessions on this. They did a lot of research. They consulted with our special counsel, our labor attorney, with regard to the implications of the act. They also stayed late one particular evening while we debated the language for this policy change. So I wanted to make sure that I thank them for that work. It's not missed on me, those extra hours in kind of debating to make sure that we get it right. The other thing that I wanted to touch upon, the other item that I wanted to touch upon was the tree lighting ceremony that recently took place at Memorial Park. Special thanks to village staff for their work on this. Thanks to Maggie for her organization. Thank you to Sandy Bakelich for her unwavering support of this effort. It was a lot of work and a lot of fun work. Thank you to the Public Works Departments, police and fire departments, all departments. Thank you to the Chamber of Commerce as well as the Community Park District for their partnership in bringing this very fun activity to the community. And my last item will be that we have coming up a Santa parade in our community, which is hosted by the LaGrange Park Fire Department. It will be taking place on Sunday, December 17th at 5 p.m. So we encourage everyone to be on the lookout for the parade and Santa and whoever else might show up to spread good holiday cheer. And with that, that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Julia. Commercial Revitalization Committee, Trustee Stewart.
Nothing to report this evening, Mr. President.
Thank you, Trustee Stewart. Our Village Clerk, Sandy.
Nothing to report.
Nothing to report. Thank you, Sandy. I just have one item, well, two items, actually. Julie and I were at the IML board meeting this weekend. We learned a lot of good things. It was a great experience. And tonight we had dinner with Mark Kukler from Grange and his village manager to start the step forward in talking about adjudication. So that was well received by both parties. I mean, we're all in agreement in how we want to proceed. I think he needs to get his board support first. He doesn't have that yet, so we do. So we'll be informing you of the steps that we take to get there, and I'm sure all of you will be involved in that process. To our residents, on behalf of the board and our staff, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Hope you have a very safe and healthy holiday season. Catherine, thank you for being here with us tonight. And with that, I'll move on to any new business. We'll save that for New Year, okay. No closed session, so motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, everybody,